was using or had the mobile phone in his hand. And something that I think Senator Heffernan raised initially about the wheels weren't down when they should have been down, and that was a go-around. You may want to take this on notice. What was the result for the crew? Was any administrative action taken in respect of the captain? Was the first officer praised for reporting the issue? And did the first officer return immediately to flying duty? So I don't mind if it's on notice.
I'm happy to take that on notice. I'd also say that particular incident is an active investigation of the ATSB. So
sure,
I wouldn't want to prejudice.
But insofar as you can, without prejudicing any inquiry. And finally, again, this is from a partner of a Jetstar cabin attendant. There's an assertion made, and I won't show you, I don't need to give you the email, I just want to put a couple of things that were put to me, that the sign-on time before flights has been reduced to fit in with longer duty periods. Has the sign-on time for cabin crew changed?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm happy to take that on notice.
And the other issue is that cabin managers, there's an assertion that a company memo was sent that cabin managers are no longer allowed to stand down staff if they feel that the cabin manager feels they don't have the required knowledge during the pre-flight briefing. You can either take it on notice or clarify that now.
I'm happy to take that on notice, but I'd say that my understanding of the way that process works, cabin manager always, if they've got a concern, talks to the captain. It's the captain who's got responsibility for the safety of the aircraft, ultimately makes the call on standing down crew.
Sorry, and if you could just clarify whether the cabin manager's ever had that authority and whether there's been any change to that, and I think that would satisfy that query. Thank you very much.
Senator O'Brien?
You said that was it?
I did, but you get one last chance.
I think I'm satisfied on the basis that you're saying that the four stick shaker events which were actual safety issues were on the 300, the Dash 300, and that I think you're telling us that you're satisfied that the issues that may have contributed to those events have been dealt with as far as is possible through your training systems with both 300 and 400 pilots.
That's correct.
And systems have been incorporated into your simulator program to equip pilots to deal with those events on a continuing basis.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Well, can I just say on behalf of the committee and the travelling public that we are very grateful to Qantas and Jetstar for the way you've attended to this inquiry, and my sincere thanks.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in 15 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks for
their transportation.
Thank you.
Only one channel delivers unrivalled coverage of us.
One pilot, but I was stopped at an airport by a Qantas Link captain and who spoke to me about the stick shaker incidents, and his opinion, for what it's worth, is that he thought that there was the difference between the Dash 8s and the Q400s is such that there needs to be some additional training. They felt, there was a feeling amongst that captain, and he said it was shared by some of his colleagues, that he thought that there may have been some more differential training between the Dash 8s and the Q400s in terms of dealing with stick shaker incidents, because the aircraft are slightly different. I think Captain Davey from Qantas Link fairly set that out. Is that a factor that the ATSB would be looking at?
The incidents we're most interested in, Senator, relate to the 300 series rather than the Q400.
But the difference between the training between the Dash 8s.
I understand the point you're making. I'm just making the point that we have focused on the incidents that have occurred in 300s because they're the ones that have come to attention. But I would be happy to ensure that our investigation looks at that issue of any potential risk that comes from the different arrangements in the 300 and 400 series aircraft. Yeah,
so that's one of the things you're looking at in terms of the levels of training.
We can we're looking at the risk factors that lead to these situations and might have a potential influence on how they're handled when the stick shaker actually occurs.
And do you go back to the manufacturer? Sorry, Chair. Do you go back to the manufacturer Bombardier in relation to this?
We've not seen anything at this stage, Senator, that leads us to the view that there is a manufacturing design or mechanical problem.
Oh, sorry, let me make this clear. I wasn't implying that in any way. What I want to, as I understand it, Bombardier have liaised with Qantas Link and with other airlines, not suggesting a design fault at all, but whether issues of training and related issues might be beneficial in terms of dealing with these incidents.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I seem to be avoiding a definitive answer, but it's because we have something in process, Senator. What we do, as we normally do with our investigations, will be to establish what we see as the relevant safety issues and then look into who is best placed to help deal with that identified issue, which may include Bombardier and what it does in terms of standard operating procedures that operators of the aircraft take into account and embed in their training approaches.
And that was a context in which I wanted to ask it. Sorry, Chair.
Senator Ronnie, you've got a stick shake question?
Well, I thought we dealt with that, unless there's more information that ATSB have that they can give us about the stick shaker matter since they last gave evidence. No. Okay.
Is the Air Transport Safety Bureau aware of similar events globally? Like Qantas have told us that it isn't peculiar to our mob, it's peculiar to the globally, and which would indicate a trick in flying the plane, surely.
We're not aware of any, Senator. It's clearly given an apparent pattern, a question that can reasonably be asked. Different countries have different standards for reporting, so whether there would be a comprehensive answer, I think, is an interesting question, but we can certainly, in the course of the investigation, acquire some additional information on that.
The regular pattern of activity both at the high speed and the less regular low speed air safety risk, is this something that you're confident that with the regulations and training that's available now that will be satisfactorily addressed?
From our point of view at this stage, Senator, and this goes to our examination of the material we have available to us about stick shakers generically as well as in the Dash 8 fleet. The high-speed incidents, the ones in cruise, the ones on descent, fall within normal parameters. There's not anything we have seen in those that would say anything needs to be done. Turbulence and such like are a part of normal operations and will have a propensity to have a short-term trigger of a stick shaker or similar things in aircraft. So our interest is particularly in the area of approach, stabilised approach, and stick shakers, particularly in approach to land.
Could I just move with the required sensitivity to another area? Could you take us through the various notices, the levels of notices that are issued to airlines that finishes up with what were we told this morning?
That's Cassie you're talking about.
Yeah, but there must be an impact on...
I could help you, Senator, with what we do in terms of our investigations. There's a set of things that our colleagues in the Civil Aviation Safety Authority do in terms of their audits and what response they expect from operators to those. What we do is identify through our investigations safety issues, and depending on the severity of the safety issue, we will draw attention to an issue that we suggest could be dealt with, but we don't consider particularly significant. If it's a significant issue, we'll issue either an advisory notice or, if necessary, a formal recommendation. A formal recommendation brings with it a responsibility on whoever we make the recommendation to respond within 90 days as to what they're going to do about our recommendation.
So is that the foundation stone of a show cause notice?
No, Senator. A show cause notice is CASA looking at compliance with the Civil Aviation Act, the regulations and orders, and asking someone essentially to give evidence or information as to why action should not be taken against them because there is a prima facie breach of their responsibilities under the Act.
And that action could involve what? Immediate remedial action or?
Well, show cause notices, as I understand them, Senator, and I'm outside my formal responsibilities here, is the regulator taking the most, indicating it intends to take the most severe possible action, i.e. removing a permission to operate.
So are you aware of are these something that has happened in the past and, you know, on an irregular basis, or is it a very irregular event to be given a show cause? From the best of your knowledge?
From the best of my knowledge, Senator, it's a comparatively rare event, and it normally comes out of either an egregious breach of responsibilities or an ongoing pattern of failure to comply that leads to serious safety concerns.
Egregious is not a word you use lightly, I take it.
No, I thought about using it, Senator, and I think it's the correct one.
Yep.
So, to work up the case for a show cause, would Air Transport Safety Bureau have input into the case?
No, Senator. Explicitly not.
Okay.
And perhaps it's worth, for the benefit of the committee, explaining how the Civil Aviation Safety Authority and the ATSB work together. From the Transport Safety Investigation Act explicitly prevents us from allocating blame, from supporting any finding of liability on the part of someone in the system, or from supporting any court-based action against anyone operating in the system. So the material we have explicitly can't be used essentially for regulatory purposes, except in the picture of information we have that discloses trends that may tell the regulator where to look.
So if there was a show cause notice issued in the event of, would you be consulted?
No, Senator.
Okay.
We would probably be advised, because quite often those sorts of matters relate to things that we're also investigating.
Okay, thanks very much. Look, we're just going to break if you don't mind. I hope you don't think it's rude for a little private meeting. And no, you stay there. We'll just go in the back room.
Only one channel delivers unrivaled coverage of Australian democracy. APAC, Australia's public affairs channel. Live coverage of Australian democracy.
Foul spot!
APAC brings you the doors as politicians arrive to face the media.
Thanks very much.
She's as deluded as Colonel My People Love Me Gaddafi.
Live, all proceedings in the House of Representatives.
And Australians will see how wrong and reckless he is.
APAC 2 on Sky News Multiview brings you complete live coverage of the Senate. Plus, only on APAC, extensive coverage of committees, media conferences and other major parliamentary events.
But she said it, and she will be judged by it, Mr. Speaker.
Unrivaled coverage of Australian democracy in action.
He didn't have the courage to look the Australian people in the eye.
APAC, Channel 648, Australia's only public affairs channel. Part of the Sky News channels.
About difficulty to climb and those sort of matters.
Yes, Senator. It was a matter that originally we didn't initiate an investigation on because we didn't think it was outside the parameters of normal operations, however serious it may have felt to those involved. But following our discussion, I think the last time we indicated we would take a look at it. We're still completing that investigation. We have got the flight, the information